Posted by you/user 01980. My mom hacked the simulation and found me a lost object. This might sound not first-hand encounter, but it is. Just bears with me for a bit. The backstory about my mom is my mom had always been spiritual and religious. She says she has a part of God's light, but I don't believe any of that. I'm a hardcore atheist. I just think that she found a way to hack the simulation without even realizing it. So my mom always says a prayer when she loses something, and she would miraculously find the thing she lost in the most unexpected places. She even says the prayer for other people when they lose something. One time she said the prayer to one of her friends who lost their earrings in the sink. She watched the earrings fall into the sink, and after asking my mom to say the prayer, she found them on the floor of her living room. But that's only one of what my mom does? I don't even know anymore. So one day I was sarcastically telling my mom to say a prayer to find my old precious puppy doll, which I lost a long time ago. She said, "I'm afraid that you will go insane after finding it there, in a completely different country, and you won't be able to handle it." I was moving to another country, so I was like, yeah right. So I moved to another country, and guess what I found? Not the puppy doll, unfortunately, lol. But I found a hair clipper that I lost almost 2 years ago. It suddenly appeared in one of my bags in the country. I was shocked because I literally searched for it everywhere, plus I selectively chose every item and put them in the bag and sealed it shut. I tried to rationalize that I must have missed it, but there's just no way. Because I made sure to take only what I needed, and the hair clipper just wasn't there. I didn't ask my mom about anything, because she would try to tease me and almost bully me because I don't believe in a god, and now that happened. Posted by you/Morticia_Dumbledore. Please debunk this newspaper glitch. Like everywhere else in the world, we receive the daily newspaper. Well, daily. So, I usually discard certain items in my kitchen after wrapping them up in old newspapers. Of course, I casually, by default, glance around at the articles printed on it before wrapping and throwing them away. These past few days, something weird happened. The first day, I picked up an old newspaper, tore a random sheet, saw the page, and it had the recent Met Gala images on it. Very eye-catching. Blake Lively in the golden dress, Cara Delevingne covered in gold paint, Sarah Jessica Parker in the big, glamorous headgear, not sure what those are called. Anyway, I crumpled it up around the trash and binned it. A couple of days later, I pull out an old newspaper again. Tear a random sheet out. And again, without doubt, it's the same sheet. Same pictures. Same articles. I think to myself, maybe I'm mistaken. Or maybe, perhaps, we got 2 sets of identical papers delivered by error. We order only 1 set of papers for the house. No one else orders an extra set. What with Google and all, I still glance at the date. Just to be sure. It is the date I saw 2 days ago. I wrote it off as déjà vu. Now, almost a week to 10 days after this incident, which I'd completely forgotten about because of how trivial a coincidence it seemed, I pick a random paper from the old pile of papers that have collected over the past few days. I tear a random sheet. And it's the same bloody sheet again. Same pictures. Same articles. Same bloody date. Even if somehow an identical copy of the newspaper found its way into my house, how is the same sheet appearing thrice in a row? After me crumpling it up and discarding it multiple times? No one's messing with me for sure, because firstly, no one in my house has that kind of time or sense of humor. Secondly, there's no way to ensure what page from the stack I'd choose to tear off. Posted by you/Skyder-chan. Saw me from the past in an old drama theater. Back in 2018 I was 17 years old and come back from abroad to visit my friends in my home city for the winter. I remember it was the cold month of December, and I was walking back to my apartment after a medical appointment with my mother when I happened to pass by this very old abandoned drama theater that was built in the 1800-1800 Sray. My grandfather had temporarily worked in his youth, which had been closed ever since the 90s. Recall I hadn't been on that street for a long since my childhood because I would always avoid the old drama theater building, as it gave me very strange vibes, so I would always take the other way home back to the city center. However, that particular day I happened to take that route for some unknown reason, and I took that road with my mother while we discussed my upcoming exams, until she stopped me at the intersection for some odd reason and told me I was going the wrong way. At that moment, I saw a young blonde girl sitting in a very familiar blue Opel car playing on her PSP 3000 in the car, and she glanced up to look at me all of a sudden. Our eyes met and I felt an odd sense of familiarity and recollection. I froze for a bit in shock, until I heard my mother's voice and decided to quickly turn back. I went home as if nothing happened and then realized that when I was a kid back in 2009, it was snowing and I had seen an older teenager with highlights, makeup, and a purple winter jacket, looking at me strangely when I was in the car with my dad in the back seat, waiting for my mother to get back from the local store a few blocks away, and that's when it hit me that this person was me. She too had moved away quickly after locking eyes with me when I was a kid, and she was dressed in the same attire I was wearing in 2018. It was almost as if what happened wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to be there on that day. Even up to this day I'm confused. How could I possibly have seen myself from the future? And for me to remember it? I've never told anyone about it because they would assume I'm a delusional idiot or something. This has been something I haven't been able to explain to anyone. I still sometimes think about it and wonder whether I just fell asleep with my eyes open and had hallucinated the entire event, but I recall it as blue as daylight. I've even asked my mother about the event and she blankly stared at me saying I acted oddly that day, wanting to go back to that place for some unknown reason. I don't believe in the supernatural, but after having experienced this event I think there is something there that we aren't aware of. Posted by you/snowmeow7. Unexplained happenings on the 13th hole. My husband and I are members of a country club with 2 different courses. The last time we played course A was on May 8th and the strangest thing happened on the 13th hole, and I very nearly posted here then. We were just teeing off when someone from the group behind approached in their cart asking if someone had lost a pitching wedge, PW, in the middle of the 11 fairway. I look at my husband assuming it was him because it certainly wasn't me. I just hit PW off of 12 tees, a par 3. And while, yes, I did hit PW into 11 green, it would be impossible for me to then use my PW on the next hole. I'll also add that I played D1 college golf and leaving a club behind is just not something I would ever do. Let alone in the middle of the fairway or on a tee box that he meant to say otherwise. So I say to the guy, no, can't be me. And he says, TaylorMade 790? TaylorMade is the brand and 790 is one of their lines of irons, and holds out my PW. How is this possible? We never saw the group again for the rest of the round, which was also weird because they'd been on our asses. This morning my husband and I played course A with my dad. As we pulled up to 12 tees, I started telling him about the unexplained PW happening from last month. He's weirded out. Once in 13 fairways ready to hit our approaches from around 150 yards. We can see there's a random ball on the front of the green. We get up there and I say to my dad and husband something to the effect of the free ball for you because it's gotta be a shitty ball if it got left behind on the green, and the only ball I've played for the last 15 plus years is the Titleist Prov 1, same as above on brand/model. My dad picks up the ball and rolls it over to my feet after I finish my putt. I'm wondering why he's put some rock flight, golf slang for a junky ball, in my general direction and not kept it for himself, because he is known to hit range balls on the course on occasion. Lol. I am shocked to see it's a fairly new Titleist of some variety. Prov. He says. Now, at $50 per dozen, a Prov is not a ball you casually leave on a green. Also, fellow golfers would agree. Who would do this in general with any ball? But then I catch a somewhat worn-off orange Sharpie marking over the Prov 1 lettering and pick it up for closer inspection. This ball is my ball. I mark mine with a script SM in orange over the lettering, and it is without a shadow of a doubt that this is a used ball of mine, clear as day right here on the 13th green a month later, and somehow also passed over by the groups in front of us this morning. I checked my card for that day and I made a par. So I didn't hit one in the water. Even if it was one found from a round before that, how did it end up here for me? 2 things I did not lose being returned to me on the 13th hole. The first one was weird enough, but now with this today, I have no rational explanation. I made some edits to try to make the golf talk more understandable. Also, for clarity, it is golf etiquette to mark your golf ball with a Sharpie, whether with your initials like me or dots or whatever you prefer, for easy identification within your group and in the event you lose your ball and need to confirm it's yours. Posted by you/NASB13. My favorite book disappeared when I ordered a new copy. It was there and now I have 2 copies. This occurred when I was about 16 and still living at home. When I was around 8 years old, my dad worked overseas in Australia and my mother and I flew to meet him. She and I are avid readers and I had already read through the books I had, so for the return flight out of Australia, we are American, we got a book at the airport. I'm a horse person and the book was titled The Silver Brumby by Aline Mitchell. It is a kid's book but has multiple chapters. My mom read it and loved it as well. I am a chronic rereader, so that book was well loved. The cover was cracked, parts of it were water damaged from reading it in the bathtub, etc. However, it and the following books in the series became my treasured possessions. They had their spot on the bookshelf and I never left them out of place for fear of misplacing them in my library. At the time, because it was an Australian book, you couldn't get them in the US anywhere but eBay, if you could find them at all. Because of this, I was really careful with them. Fast forward about 8 years, I'm 16. I decide that I want to reread the book as I have done many times before. I go to the shelf and it isn't there. I immediately start to panic but try not to get freaked because I may have misplaced it even though I never put it anywhere else. I look through my tidy library and everywhere in the house. I tear the house apart, I take all my books off the shelf, but no dice. It isn't there. I ask my mom if she borrowed it or anything. She did not. Neither did my dad. We assume it will turn up eventually, so we wait a couple of weeks. I continue to look through my bookshelf and everywhere else. Camper, grandma's house, cars, etc. It has simply disappeared. We finally decide that we need to order another copy. My mom even paid for it because she felt bad. We had to buy it on eBay and it was kind of expensive to ship it from Australia, but it was my favorite book, so we didn't care. It takes a while to get here, and finally, the day arrives that my replacement copy comes. I am so excited to put it back with the rest of the series. This copy is clean, unsullied, and brand new, unlike the old copy that I had read for so many years. As I go to put it back on its hallowed place on my shelf, I stop in disbelief because my old copy was back in its old place. I yelled for my parents and they couldn't believe their eyes. Even when the new copy was on the way, I still looked over my library every couple of days, plus I was in there grabbing books anyway. It was as if it had never left. I never could explain this, and still can't. It's a story my family loves to tell because it is just so weird. I still have the 2 copies. My mom jokes around that the fairies took it, and maybe they did. Posted by you/iplelikapoop. Midnight at Taco Bell. One night a few years ago I decided to go out for a drive and stopped at a Taco Bell close to my home. The time was around 11:50, and I remember seeing 4 completely identical black sedans waiting in the drive-through line in front of me. They were the same make, model, year number, trim, you name it. There was a red SUV at the speaker, and the first black sedan was about the distance of a car away from the red Sun's back bumper, and then every subsequent black sedan after I was certain you couldn't put a paperclip in between them, they were so close together. I heard the lady in the red SUV finish her order, thank the drive-through worker, and saw her pull forward. But the black sedans just stayed there, waiting in place. I remember getting quite an eerie feeling and waiting for a few minutes for them to move. I looked down at my phone and saw the time change from 11:59 to 12 o'clock, looked up, and couldn't believe that I watched all 4 sedans with their brake lights completely, perfectly in sync pull forward, past the speaker, past the window, and leave the Taco Bell to drive through. I followed them around, but I stopped at the speaker and was so dumbfounded that I didn't respond to the teller asking for my order for a good 15 to 30 seconds, decided to follow after them and said sorry. Never mind to the speaker and pulled out of the drive-through and turned in the direction I watched the sedans leave in. When I pulled out of the driveway, the sedans were gone. On what is a usually busy street, there was absolutely no one there. No one else was in line at the Taco Bell behind me, and not a single car on the road as far as I could see. Pretty weird. Posted by you/Nanarooney. Couldn't see the bottle of face wash that I knew was there. Hey guys, I'm back at it again with more shit that keeps me up at night. I went to shower in my friend's shower I go in all the time. I got to the part of my routine where I was about to wash my face and the subconscious of my brain was like, okay, the CeraVe is in the corner, so I went to reach for it in a very confident way as if I had just seen it there, which it felt like I did because my brain was saying the brand name, which I didn't think I had memorized. But it wasn't there. When I reached it and it wasn't there, my brain did a double take in confusion because I was sure it was in the top corner when I got in the shower. But now there were no bottles in the top corner. I got a prickly feeling on my skin of a little fear for some reason and looked at every bottle and corner in the shower. No face wash. Whatever, it's probably by the sink. I get out, not by the sink. Whatever, maybe he's out. In the morning I asked, did you move the Curve face wash last night? No, why? It wasn't in the shower. Well, I didn't move it and it's there now, I just used it. I asked where in the shower was it when you got in there and he said top corner. The first place I looked. Posted by you/Ola0513. Keys to my bike lock just disappeared. This just happened an hour ago. I needed to take my bike out of the basement in the apartment complex I live in since they were going to close the basement for the whole day tomorrow. I left my apartment, went down to the basement and grabbed the keys to my bike lock, unlocked my bicycle, and put the key inside my bike lock that I put in my bike basket. That way, I can't accidentally drop the keys. I got out of the basement, drove my bike up towards the stands and looked for a place to park it. I see a parking spot and chose to park my bike there. After doing that, I vividly remember walking around the bicycle stand, as I needed to lock the bike from another angle because there was no space left between my bike and the other bikes. I held the bike lock and locked the bike. Just to give you a bit of info, what I consider even weirder is my mom gave me another key for another lock, for extra protection as there's often bike theft in the area, and she put it on the key ring to have my actual bike lock key. I was going to use that bike lock and realized my keys weren't in my hand anymore. I remember dropping the key and looking at the same place where I had dropped them. What did I see? Nada. There was nothing. I used a flashlight, but couldn't find anything. I checked the basement, even the other bike baskets on other bikes, the ground and the bike wheels, still I found nothing. I did it about 3 times and checked bushes that I had not even seen, pretty illogical, but I tried just cause I couldn't find the keys anywhere. It was about 11 p.m. So the reason might have been that I was kind of half asleep. However, it makes no sense as I would have seen the keys in my basement, considering you can still lock the bike lock without the keys. My first thoughts were that they were in the basement and I was just unaware of that, or I would have seen the keys, but I didn't see them and I looked everywhere possible. I lost my card last week as I was going to a graduation celebration. I had only walked for around 5 to 10 minutes and then realized my card wasn't in my pocket. This of course might have just happened unintentionally, but when it happened I remembered how I had the card just a couple of seconds before it wasn't in my pocket. I decided to try and find it as I had walked straight, couldn't find anything and there was no wind. A couple of days later, someone called and said that they had found my card. Strange. Posted by you/Caledon_Stormrider. Bartender glitch or just too good of timing? I work as a bartender at a really fun place in San Diego. Been doing it for years, and lately, since finding this sub and thinking about the Matrix complex for years, I've been noticing things that seem out of place or just glitchy. My story goes with me doing what I do, flipping tins and shaking cocktails. I have this routine, nothing special, but it ends with my tins clean and back where they should be. However, this time I tipped one, and went to roll off the bar. Last second I caught it and that's when it happened. A table drops a metal plate we use for silverware and napkins, but it was the exact second I caught the tin falling. The timing of it was weird and just instantly thought, well, that was weird and glitchy. The server that night said the same thing. Tonight was weird and people were off, and it just didn't feel right. So maybe a glitch or timing, but either way things have definitely been off and just that, glitchy. Does anyone else have moments like that?